We normally have tafsir today, but many of our regulars, Hafiz Muhammad Pandor Sahab, his brother Ayub Pandor, and his son Hafiz Yaqub Pandor, and others, Yusuf Bhai, they went to the janaza. So it was unexpectedly announced at 7:15. I went to the janaza as well. So we don't want them to miss out because they are regulars, very punctual. So today we'll not go into the tafsir. Just a few points to cover. Number one, half of Shaban is gone. Alhamdulillah, we tried to do some ibadat last night. May Allah accept our ibadat. We kept roza today. May Allah accept our roza. May Allah be pleased with us. Death reminds us of what is mentioned, that in Sha'ban, matters are decided. Ata ibn Yasar says, تقطع الآجال من شعبان إلى شعبان حتى أن الرجل لينكح ويولد له وقد خرج اسمه في الموتى وفي رواية ليفرش الفراش وينكح الأزواج ويبني البنيان وإن اسمه قد نسخ في الموتى. Matters are decided, lifespans and death matters are decided from Sha'ban to Sha'ban, to the extent that a person gets married and has a child whilst his name has been drawn out among the deceased. In another riwayat, a person spreads out beddings, meaning he constructs a palace, mansion, and gets everything ready, beddings, coverings, and he gets married, gets a new wife, he constructs house or whatever, extensions, etc., and his name is noted down among those who are to die in the following year. In another riwayat of Dailami from Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, similar wordings, and there's an addition in there, وَإِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيَحُجُّ وَقَدْ وَقَعَ فِي مَنْ يَمُوتُ. A man goes for Hajj whilst his name is written among those who are to die. So this means we don't know the exact time of death. It is fixed, but we don't know. So we have to be ready for that. Hazrat Maulana Bilal Sahab Daman Barakatum Maddafuzum Alallahu Maratibahum yesterday mentioned, if you remember, that Sheikh Muhyiddin ibn al-Arabi spent the night of 15th Shaban in Ibadat. Then next day people congratulated him and he said, how can you congratulate a person who's seen his name written down among those who are to die this year? And he died in the following year. It is also narrated from Sheikh Muhyiddin ibn al-Arabi that Laylatul Qadr goes around the whole year. And he said, twice I have seen Laylatul Qadr on the 15th night of Shaban. They both coincided together. That means there are ulama who say Shab-e Qadr is not just in Ramzan, is not just in the last Ashra. It is more probable, most likely in those times. But there is possibility in other nights as well. Hazrat Shaykh has explained that there are two Laylatul Qadrs. One is the one which is full of Nuraniyat, Ruhaniyat, Barakat, and Malaika descend in huge numbers, millions. That is in Ramzan and most likely in the last Ashra and most likely in the odd nights. And there is another Laylatul Qadr in which decree and taqdeer is noted down. And that Laylatul Qadr goes around the month of Ramzan, and sometimes it goes out of the month of Ramzan and is found in other nights as well. Maybe this is what he meant by seeing Laylatul Qadr on the 15th night of Shaban. And this is probably why Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, تُقْطَعُ الْآجَالِ مِنْ شَعْبَانِ إِلَى شَعْبَانِ. This is in one hadith. In the other hadith, ذاك شهر يغفل الناس عنه ترفع فيه الأعمال إلى رب العالمين فأحب أن يرفع عملي وأنا صائم. In this month, A'mal are raised in the court of Allah, and I wish that when my Amal is raised in the court of Allah, I am fasting. This is why he used to fast a lot in the month of Ramadan. May Allah give us tawfiq to follow in the sunnah of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So, we need to be ready for our death. Hazrat Sheikh Zakaria Rahmatullah Ali has written that Quran Sharif reminds us about our death. Kullu nafsin za'iqatul maut in three places. Kullu shay'in halikun illa wajha. Kullu man 'alayha fan wa yabqa wajhu rabbika dhul jalali wal ikram fabiyayyi ala'i rabbikuma tukazziban. Everyone in the universe will perish. Nobody is here to live forever. So we have to go from here one day. We have to keep that in mind. Hadith Sharif reminds us of our death. Hadith Sharif says death is a beautiful admonisher. تركت فيكم واعظين الصامت والناطق فالصامت الموت والناطق القرآن. I'm leaving behind two wa'iz. The silent one and the talking one. The silent wa'iz is death, and the talking wa'iz is Quran Sharif. Take nasihat from both of them. If you see or hear about someone's death, then remember your own death. This Sahabi was in some janaza. Someone asked, whose janaza is this? And he replied, it's your janaza. And if you don't like it, it's my janaza. He meant to say that this is not a time of this type of conversation, it's a time of remembrance of death. Our Hazrat Maulana Isu Mutala Sahib Navarallahu Munkadu Masjahu would go in janaza, but he would be totally speechless. People would ask him to deliver a short speech, but he would decline. He would just focus on his own death. And at times he would say, the janaza, it reminds us of, or it is similar to Maidani Hashar. Reminds us of Maidani Hashar. Maidani Hashar will all be standing before Allah, like we're standing over here in this janaza. And for Maidani Hashar, it is written, it is said in the Quran, وَخَشَعَتِ الْأَصْوَاتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ فَلَا تَسْمَعُ إِلَّا هَمْسًا. The voices will be lowered in front of Rahman. People will be speechless. You will only hear hamas. This is hamas. No screaming, no shouting, no noise, no voice. So he said, this janaza is a reminder of that Maidani Hashar. We can't talk in the janaza. He would not be able to deliver a speech in janaza. He would be focused so much on his own death. So, wise, maut is a wise, and Quran is also a wise, according to this hadith. And then Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu had engraved on his ring, Kafa bil mauti wa'izan. Maut is a sufficient admonisher. Just look at that and remember his own death. It's a reminder. You have to remember your death every day. And Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Aksiru zikra hazimil lazzat al-maut. Frequently remember the crusher of pleasures, meaning death. Because when you remember death, your pleasures are crushed. Remember it frequently. Don't indulge in luxuries and pleasures. Remember your death. And he said, whoever remembers his death 25 times a day by reading this dua, Allahumma barik li fil maut wa fima ba'd al maut, Allah will give him the rank of a shaheed even if he dies in his home on his bed. Remember death frequently. Hazrat Sheikh Zakaria Rahmatullah alayhi writes in Maut Ki Yaad that remembering death has many benefits. The first benefit is that it stops a person from sinning. When he knows I'm going to die, then he'll think, why should I sin? Why should I disobey Allah? Because death can come anytime. What if my death comes whilst I'm sinning? Many people die whilst watching TV. Many people die whilst they are drunk. Some people die whilst they are napak with janabat of zina. Some people die whilst they are swearing. There are various conditions of people's death. So I could die in this condition. Why should I sin? Number two, when you remember death, then it urges you to repent quickly. जल्दी तौबा कराता है क्योंकि आपको पता है तो फिर आप रोते हैं धोते हैं अल्लाह के सामने अल्लाह प्लीज फॉरगिव मी अल्लाह प्लीज फॉरगिव मी आई डोंट वांट टू डाई इन दिस स्टेट ऑफ सिन I want to come to you whilst I'm park and pure and clean. So you do tawbah. And we should do tawbah every night before we go to sleep. Though we might think I'm going to do that sin again, no problem. Just do tawbah again and again and again and again and again every night. Before you go to sleep, do your muhasabah. Do tawbah. Finish. When you've done tawbah, your record will be clean. If you get up in the morning, inshallah, your record is clean. If you die in the sleep, your record is clean. If you die in the morning, your record is clean. So it urges you to do tawbah if you remember your death. Number three, Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi writes that when you remember your death, then you won't fall for the dunya. Right? You won't go after money unnecessarily. You won't needlessly hoard wealth. You'll get whatever you need and you'll be content with that. Alhamdulillah, I've got enough. I don't need more. Right? So people fall for the dunya. The dunya deceives people. The dunya is deceptive. Quran said, فَلَا تَغُرَّنَّكُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا وَلَا يَغُرَّنَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورُ. Do not let the worldly life deceive you. And do not let the deceptive shaitan deceive you. So two great deceptions. One is the dunya and the other is shaitan. So mal, property, wealth, we get so much engrossed in it and we're always thinking about money, making schemes. And we forget our death. And suddenly Malakul Maut comes and we're gone. When you have this love for money, you're on your deathbed, you're still thinking about money. This old man, shopkeeper, was very ill, he's in hospital. Now, doctors have said that he's only got a few days left. His feet are hanging in the grave. But the family were told not to tell him, otherwise he'll go worse. So they hid his condition from him. He's in hospital and he thinks that he's going to get better, he's going to go home. Some of his friends come to visit him. They're sitting with him and he's talking, laughing, chatting. And he says, I'm going to get out of hospital and go home. And the property next door was going to be on sale. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to break the walls in between and make my shop larger and bring in more items and this and that, and then make more money, become millionaires. Now, if his friends know, and they are saying, yes, but inside they are laughing at him. But look at him. He's going in the qabr. He's about to die within a few days or maybe a few hours. And he's so much deeply engrossed in the dunya that even on the deathbed, he's thinking about dunya. Hazrat Shaykhul Islam Maulana Hussain Ahmad Madani Rahmatullahi alayhi's son Maulana Asad Madani Rahmatullahi alayhi came here. He was sitting with our Hazrat in Darul Umbari in the mihrab. He had done bayan, and after bayan, the students had left, and Hazrat was sitting, Maulana Saad Sahib Rahmatullahi was sitting, and they started talking about Sheikhul Islam, Hazrat Maulana Hussain Ahmad Madani Rahmatullahi. And I think he had done some bayan on zikr fikr. And he mentioned Hazrat Madani Rahmatullahi's state with regards to zikr. Hazrat was on such a high state. Hazrat was always busy in zikr azkar, 24/7. Even when he is silent, he is doing zikr with pas and fas. Sometimes Hazrat would say that this pan is ajib, is very nice. Because when you're eating and chewing pan, you can't do zikr with your tongue. So you do zikr with your pas and fas in your mind, with your breath. So even when chewing pan, he would be busy in his zikr with his breathing. So one of Hazrat's murid wrote a note to Hazrat and sent it with someone that Hazrat, my father, is in his last moments and he's going to die today or tomorrow. But the thing that annoys me is that he's always talking about dunya, 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 money, money. I try to make him say kalma, do some zikr, asma husna or something, but he's not saying it. He's in dunya and only saying worldly stuff. Please make dua for me that my father, reads kalma and does some zikr azkar whilst he's going. Now he wrote it in a very heartfelt manner. And Hazrat Sheikhul Islam Madani Rahmatullahi, I don't know what he did, his tawajjuh, he's in Deoban and the person is in another neighboring town. But Hazrat's tawajjuh, that person says that my father immediately started saying kalma and zikr and Allah, 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 Allah. And not only him, he was reading kalma and zikr and Allah, Allah so loudly that we could hear the walls echoing with the zikr. And this remained his state for perhaps 1 or 2 days until he passed away. Continuously, he never talked about dunya. He always had zikrullah on his lips. This is tawajjuh of the Sheikhul Islam, Maulana Hussain Ahmad Madani Rahmatullahi. So when you remember death, then what happens is you're distanced from this dunya. And Hazrat Sheikh Rahmatullahi writes, the fourth benefit is that you feel the urge of doing good, like zikrullah, tilawat, tasbihat. Today we forget our death and we are busy in dunya. So we find that amal salihah are a bit burden and heavy for us. We have to struggle, force ourselves to lift up, pick up that Quran and read it. Right? We're not into that system. But if you remember your death and you remember that, yeah, I have to do some neek amal. I can't lead this life of negligence and heedlessness and ghaflat. I must do something, prepare for my life after death. I have to get ready. I could go anytime. As they say, who knows these clothes which I am wearing? I'm going to take them off. Or is the person going to give ghusl going to take them off? You don't know. They will bring a scissors and cut them from there, cut, and then take it off. Our friend Ismail died. He just come out of cola shop and he collapsed. There was internal bleeding, bichara, and they couldn't find the cause. And for 40 minutes, his heart stopped. The ambulance came, took him to hospital, but they opened him up, operated on him, but they couldn't save him. Young man. But you don't know when it's going to come, who's going to take these clothes off. We've buried many youngsters, many of our students who were studying by us in Darul Bari sitting in front of us. We carried their janazas. Our neighbor, Aslam Bhai Acha's son, he was just over 40, suddenly gone. May Allah have mercy on him. So, When we remember our death, we got this tawfiq to do some good deeds. Read Quran Sharif, keep roza, pray namaz 5 times a day, go to the masjid, sit in the masjid, spend some time in the masjid, listen to nice bayans, talks. Number five, Shaykh Ramtullah Ali writes, when you remember death, then you get that love for akhirat, desire for akhirat. And akhirat is our watan, is our real place of living, abode, settlement. That is the real life. And we have to yearn for akhirat. We have to have that zeal, shock of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Rahmatullah has written a very nice book called Shauq-e Watan, Desire for the Abode. He's only mentioned in there those hadith which are regarding Jannat, luxuries of Jannat, beauty of the life in Qabr, beauty of Maidan-e Hashar, and beauty of Jannat. He's not mentioned a single hadith in there about Azab. Nothing about Azab-e Qabr, nothing about Azab-e Jahannam, nothing about Azab-e Maidan-e Hashar. Only thing in there is about the beautiful life after death. How a mu'min goes into Qabr. In fact, before Qabr, when he is dying, Malakul Maut does not come alone. He comes with 500 angels, and they all have flower bouquet in their hands, and every flower has a different scent, and they surround him, stand around him, and Malakul Maut sits close to him and gives him some good news. Sometimes his Jannat is shown to him, sometimes his Hura shown to him, and his Ruh inside is getting impatient to get out. And then Malakul Maut extracts it very smoothly. And before people give kafan, Malakul Maut has brought a special silk cloth from Jannat. He wraps the Ruh and soul into that beautiful silk cloth, and then he takes it high above. And the Ruh is chuffed and happy and pleased, goes to the Arsh of Allah, falls into sajda. And then the Ruh is brought back down, it roams around, it sees everything. It sees who's giving ghusl, who's giving kafan, who's praying janazah. It sees who's coming to the graveyard. And when the person is buried, it knows when people are going. And it can hear the chappal ni chap, the voice from of the shoes and sandals and slippers whilst they are leaving. So it hears everything, it knows. And then Munkar Nakir come and ask, Man Rabbuka Madinuka Man Nabiyuka, and fat, he passes with full marks, and the grave is expanded as far as the eyes can see. A window to the Jannat is open for him. Cool breeze from Jannat starts coming. Flowers and fruits and drinks are brought to him from Jannat, and he is really happy. The Ruh is allowed to go and meet others. So he goes and meets according to its rankings. Our Hazrat Maulana Umarji Sahib died. After a few days, someone saw him in dream and asked him, Hazrat, how are you? He said, Alhamdulillah. I was allowed to meet Sahib-e Hidayah, so I went and met Sahib-e Hidayah, the author of Hidayah, because he used to teach Hidayah Rabe for his whole life. I studied Hidayah Rabe with him as well. And until his death, he was teaching Hidayah Rabe. So he said, I met Sahib-e Hidayah and I met so and so. And I'm waiting to meet Sahaba and Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, waiting for the permission. So you go and meet the arwah and the souls over there. So you are very pleased over there in your qabr, and you have a beautiful time in your qabr. And the time in qabr passes very swiftly. It's not like this dunya, right? Very fast, very fast, very fast. Then Maidan Hashar, nothing to worry. Inshallah, Allah will make our Maidan Hashar easy for us. When you come out of our qabr, those who used to do zikr, their faces will be shining like full moon. No one he will have more deeds than them on that day, except a person who said kalma tayyiba, same amount or more, as in the hadith of Tabarani. Inshallah, Allah will give us the shade of the arsh on the day of Qiyamah, when there is no shade besides the shade provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, Allah will give us the sweet water at the blessed hands of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam from the pool of Kawthar. How's a Kawthar? Inshallah, Allah will make our hisab kitab easy for us. Inshallah, Allah will give us the shafa'at of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And inshallah, we will get our certificate Amal Nama in our right hands. Inshallah, at scales we will be easy. Inshallah, at Pul Sirat we will get that nur from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which will make crossing the bridge easy for us. Inshallah, we will cross the bridge in the blink of an eye and wait on the other side for Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Sahaba, Tabi'een, Salafi Salihin, our forefathers, ancestors. Join them, and then we will go to Jannat with them, inshallah. I mean, we will be allowed to enter Jannah along with our Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the first instance, inshallah, without any punishment, without any azab in qabr, without any azab in Jahannam, inshallah. So we have to have that desire and shock of our original abode. Remember that this dunya is temporary residence. It's like temporary. It's like Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned. It's like a traveler sitting under the shade of a tree, having having a nice nap, and then getting relaxed, getting up, and then moving on with his journey. So that amount of time you relax under the shade of the tree is this worldly life. This is not our eternal abode. Eternal residence is in Jannat, inshallah. So when you remember your death, the fifth benefit is you yearn for your akhirat. You develop the shock of Jannat, shock of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the shock of meeting Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Some people meet Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam straight after death, as soon as they go in their qabr. Maulana Zulfiqar Sahib, Sheikhul Hadith of Falahi Darain, that Keshwar was seen by one of his students in Mumbai sometime after his death. Asked him, Hazrat, how are you? Hazrat was a jolly person. So he said, Alhamdulillah, I'm in a very comfortable state here. When the Malaika came and they asked me, Ma taqulu fi hazar rajul? What do you say regarding this man? So I replied. Now remember, he was a Sayyid from the descendants of Hazrat Fatima radiyallahu anha. So he said, अच्छा आप मुझे इनके बारे में पूछते हैं तो सुन लीजिए, ये मेरे नाना है और मैं इनका नवासा हूं. You asking me about him? Then listen, he is my grandfather and I am his grandson. And the Malaika smiled and they said, okay, mashallah, chalo, perfect answer. You meet them. In fact, in some cases, Nabi Pak sallallahu alayhi wasallam comes to take them. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi, one of the Mashayikh ulama, sees in a dream that Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam is standing in one place and there are Sahaba with him. So he asked him, Ma wuqufuka hahuna ya Rasulullah? Ya Rasulullah, why are you standing here waiting for someone? And he said, Nantadhiru Muhammad ibn Ismail. We are waiting for Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari. So the Shaykh who saw this dream noted it down. After some days, when the news came of the death of Imam Bukhari, it was exactly at that time when he was seeing that dream. So Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam had come to take him because of the maqam of Hazrat Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi. Sayyiduna Hussain radiyallahu anhu, Shaheed Karbala, Huzur Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam had come to take him when he became Shaheed. Ibn Abbas saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in a dream, or Salama saw him, and he had a bottle in his hand and which had blood in there. He said, what is this, Ya Rasulullah? And he said, this is blood of Hussein. I have kept it I'm going to present it to Allah on the day of Qiyamah as hujjat against those who murdered my grandson. So he was there at the time of Shahadat. Usman Ghani radiallahu anhu, the night before he became Shaheed, Nabi Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam appeared to him in a dream and said to him, Usman, if you wish, you could get help against these rebels, and if you wish, you could do iftar with us tomorrow. So Usman said, Ya Rasulullah, I want to do iftar with you. And the next day, it was Juma, and after Asr, before Maghrib, Hazrat Usman was made Shaheed. He was fasting, he did the iftar with Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So we aspire for that we hope Allah will allow us to meet our beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam after our death, inshallah. So this is the Shauqi Watan. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi is written there that if you remember your death, there are numerous benefits. What was the first benefit of remembering death? We stop sinning. Sins become bitter to us because we know we're going to die. Why should we sin? Number two, we do tawbah quickly. Even if you have sinned, we do tawbah quickly. Number three, we lose the love of the luxuries of this dunya when we remember death. And number four, we develop the love of good deeds, amal salihah, and we start doing as much good deeds as we can. We like reading Quran, we like praying namaz, we like keeping roza, we like giving sadaqah khairat. And number five, Hazrat mentioned, we develop the love for akhirat, our life after death, which is our real life. This will only happen when we remember our death. If we forget our death, we can't do that. So these are few benefits of remembering our death. May Allah give me the tawfiq to remember death. This is why Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah wrote that beautiful book, Maut Ki Yaad. And Hazrat mentioned the ahwal of Salafi Salihin. Our Hazrat also wrote a book called Buzrugon Ke Visal Ke Ahwal, that final moments of the pious people. Is translated in English as well. Those who were pious, how their last moments were. Hazrat mentioned from Maut Ki Yaad as well, and many other incidents from um, um, Ibn Abi Dunya's Kitab, Ahwalul Mauta wa Ulul Akhiran, these types of books. He mentioned many stories from there as well. So when we read them, we get that yearning and shock of Akhirat, life after death, going over there. This is the real life. Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah mentions in there the story of the son of Harun Rashid. Right? He was a very zahid, ascetic, pious young man, 22 years old. He used to sit with the mashayikh, the ulama, listen to their discourses, and be like them. He never had any love for this dunya, wealth, luxury. He was a prince, but he used to live like a pauper. He used to just wear tatty clothes, whatever he got. So one day, the parliamentarian said to the king, your son, because he's son, we can't say anything to him, we can't stop him. He just goes in and out of the palace with these type of tatty torn clothes. If you can request him to wear some nice clothes, because many dignitaries come, and Harun Rashid was Harun Rashid, one of the greatest khulafa of Banu Abbas. He ruled for 22 years or more. And, like they say, they were the British, the sun never set in his kingdom. Harun Rashid was like that as well. He was in Baghdad, but his kingdom ruled over Khurasan, Bukhara, Samarkand, and everywhere. And in this side, in Africa, up to Mauritania. He ruled from Baghdad. A very nice person. Tahajjud Guzar, Neek, Saleh, Parhezgar. So he had lots of dignitaries and high level people coming to his parliament, and his son is there in this manner. So they said to him, so he called over his son, Beta, these people are saying you disgraced me in the eyes of people, don't humiliate me like that. Wear some nice clothes. So he listened to his Abbas Nasihat, and then when his father finished, He just looked at this bird which was sitting on a tree, and he pointed to gestured to the bird. And the bird came flying, sat on his hand, and he gestured, and the bird flew away. He showed him this karamat. And then he said, Abba, you know, I think it's not me who's disgracing you, but I have to stay here in this palace and do certain things. That's what's disgracing me. I think I've had enough as well, and I might as well leave. Thank you very much for everything. I think I've decided to lead a life of zuhd and asceticism. I don't want to stay here anymore. Please forgive me for any disrespect. I'm going. He just left. Harun Rashid couldn't say anything. He was speechless. He didn't expect this. He left. He left from Baghdad, went to Basra. Now, Abu Amir Basri says that I needed some work to be done in my yard, some wall to be built. I was looking for some laborer, mazdoor. So I went to the markets and looked around and searched. And someone said to me that young man over there is a very good mason. He works very hard. So I approached him. He was sitting. He had a Quran Sharif. He was reading Quran Sharif. I approached him and I said, Beta, would you like to do some labor work, Mazduri? And he closed his Quran Sharif and he said, Chachajan, of course, we have been created to do some Mazduri, work hard and earn our daily bread. I am ready. What work do you want me to do? And I said, I have this, wall construction. I want you to construct it for me and make it, level it. I'll show you the work. I said, all right, but two conditions. One condition is that I will come to work, but when it's azan and namaz time, I will stop my work, go to the masjid, pray my namaz, and continue after namaz. I said, no problem. And second condition is I will only take one daniq, no more. Even if you force me, I won't take more than that. He said, no problem. That's all right. So I took him, I showed him, and I left. When I came back in the evening, I noticed that this one man had done the work of 10 workers. I was surprised. So next day, I went to look for him again, but he wasn't there. And someone told me that he only works once a week on Saturdays, and then he disappears. He's in his own world. He uses that one daniq. Aja, yesterday, he tried to give him more than one daniq, but he said it was my condition. I only take one daniq, no more than. He just left one daniq, took one daniq, and left. Now, next day, couldn't find him. And they said he works only once a week. So he said, I was so happy with his work that I was ready to wait for him for another week. So I waited. The next week, Saturday morning, I went out to look for him. He was in the same place, in the same way, with his Quran Sharif reading. And we had the same conversation, his same two conditions. And I brought him to work. And I went away, but I hid somewhere. And I looked at, how he was doing so much work on his own. And what do I see? To my amazement, I see that he mixed the cement and he was just putting the cement on the wall, and the bricks were going there and leveling them themselves. Meaning he was helped by the malaika, the angels were helping him with his work. And I was just speechless. And I said, wow, subhanAllah, this man is Sahib Karamat. And he did a lot of work again. And in the evening, I tried to give him more, but he said, no, just took one daniq and left. There was a little bit of work left. So I waited for another week. On the third Saturday, I went to look for him. I couldn't find him. I asked people, and someone told me that he's in that, jungle, forest, neighbor area, and you will find him there. So he said, I went there, and I saw that he was lying there. His head was on a brick, and I approached him, and I quickly removed the brick and put his head in my lap, and I said, my beloved, why are you staying here like this? And he said, Abu Amir, it seems my time is up. I have to go now. Can you do a few things for me, please? And he said, when I die, you know, give me kafan in these chadars which I am wearing. I don't need any new clothes. I said, no, I'll buy new clothes for you. He said, no, 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 no. New clothes are for the living. The deceased, the dead can be buried in any clothes. If I am good, then I will get new kafan in the qabr. If not, then even this pate purane torn clothes, are good to just cover my body. And then he said, this lota, wuzu, he said, give it to the person who washes my body and who dig my grave. And this expensive ring and this Quran Sharif, take it to Baghdad and give it to the King Harun Rashid and tell him that one Musafir uh, gave you this. And he said, don't let dunya deceive you. Don't keep going on in this way, in this comfortable manner, and suddenly death approaches you without you having accumulated any good deeds. Be mindful of your akhirat. Abu Amir says, it is then that I realized that he was no ordinary person, he was a prince. So he died. He said his kalma, zikr, fikr, and he died in my lap. And I did exactly what he told me. And I buried him. And then I left, traveled to Basra, from Basra to Baghdad. And I was looking for a way to get into the palace, but struggling to find a way. Then in the following morning, I saw that Harun Rashid's Jashan was being made. There was festival and he was going on a parade. So I sat on a high place, hilly area, and some horse riders came, and then another batch, and then the 10th batch, Harun Rashid himself uh, came out. So I screamed at the top of my voice, Harun Rashid, and I showed him the Quran and the ring. I have some amanat from you, from a Musafir, and I need to talk to you. And Harun Rashid realized and he said, okay. He told one of the attendants, take him inside and bring him when I return from my parade. So when Harun Rashid came back, he called for Abu Hamid Basri. So the person came and said, I don't know what you said, but it's made him so sad that he's in an ajib mood. And he said, if you're going to say 10 things to him, don't say 10, just mention 5. And be careful what you say. All right, went inside. So it's just him and Harun Rashid. And he gave him the ring and the Quran Sharif. And he said, oh, what happened? Tell me. And he said everything. And this is how he worked for me. And he gave this. Harun Rashid started crying. He was already in tears. And he said, he was my son. He was born before I was throned and on the throne, made a king. And he was very pious, very pious. He never took anything from the luxuries of this dunya. He went from this dunya as he came. And he only took this Quran Sharif and the lota with him. I told his mother secretly to give him that expensive ring so he can use it if he, gets into some difficulty. But he didn't even use that, and he's returned it back. And he said, Abu Amir, do you not know that we are from the descendants of Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, and we are from the family members of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Why did you make him do all that labor work? And Abu Amir said, I never knew that he is a prince. I only found out at the time of his death. I'm so sorry. And Harun Rashid said, did you give him ghusl? Did you give him kafan? Did you bury him? Yes. So Harun Rashid took his hands, Abu Amir's, and kissed them, put them on his chest, and kept remembering and crying. And then he said, take me to Basra. I want to visit his qabr. So Harun Rashid traveled with his entourage to his Basra and visited the grave of this son of his. So look, here he's a prince, right? He's got the whole world under his feet. But look at his akhlaq and look at his behavior and look at his asceticism and zuhud and look at his desire for akhirat. And He's denouncing and the luxuries of this dunya, nothing to do with this dunya, and is aspiring for his life after death and akhirat. So Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi said there that when we remember our death, this is what we develop within us, the desire for akhirat, shauq of watan, shauq of akhirat. So we have to keep that in our minds all the time. So may Allah give me the tawfiq to practice on what we preach. May Allah be pleased with us. And may Allah give us tawfiq to do something for our real life, which is a life after death. And may Allah be pleased with us. Inshallah, we'll continue with our tafsir next week. Today, because some of our friends are absent, that's why we just went into this little bit of remembrance of death. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك اللهم لك الحمد ولك الشكر اللهم لا نحصي ثناء عليك أنت كما أثنيت على نفسك اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار رب اغفر وارحم وأنت خير الراحمين اللهم بارك لنا في الموت وفيما بعد الموت اللهم بارك لنا في الموت وفيما بعد الموت اللهم بارك لنا في الموت وفيما بعد الموت اللهم حبب الموت إلى من يعلم أن سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبدك ورسولك اللهم آتنا تشوقا إلى لقائك اللهم اغفر لنا وارحمنا وعافنا وارزقنا واسترنا واجبرنا واهدنا وارفعنا إنا لما أنزلت إلينا من خير فقراء یا ارحم الراحمین محض اپنے فضل و کرم سے ہم سب کی مغفرت فرما دیجئے ہم میں سے کسی ایک کو بھی یہاں سے محروم نہ اٹھنے دیجئے یا اللہ ہمیں اپنی موت کو یاد رکھنے کی توفیق نصیب فرمائیے گناہوں سے حفاظت فرمائیے گناہوں سے توبہ کرنے کی توفیق عطا فرمائیے دنیا کی محبت ہمارے دلوں سے نکال دیجئے اعمال صالحہ کی محبت نصیب فرمائیے آخرت کا شوق نصیب فرمائیے جنت کا شوق نصیب فرمائیے اللہ آپ کی ملاقات کا شوق نصیب فرمائیے آپ کی سچی محبت عطا فرمائیے آپ کی معرفت عطا فرمائیے آپ کی ذات تک وصول نصیب فرمائیے اللہ آپ کے محبوبین مقبولین یا اللہ ذاکرین شاغلین عارفین واصلین کاملین میں ہمارا شمار فرمائیے الذاکرین اللہ کثیرا والذاکرات میں ہم کو شامل فرمائیے اعد اللہ لہم مغفرتا و اجرا عظیما ہم کو نصیب فرمائیے اللہ رمضان کا مبارک مہینہ سامنے ہے اس کے لیے روحانی طور پر ریڈی ہو جانے کی توفیق نصیب فرمائیے یا اللہ ہماری کوتاہیاں کمزوریاں سستیاں غفلتیں معاف فرمائیے ہماری خطاؤں سے درگزر فرمائیے آپ بہت مہربان ہیں بہت کریم ہیں یا اللہ ہمارے گناہوں کے باوجود آپ ہم کو توفیق بھی عطا فرماتے ہیں آپ قبول بھی فرما لیجئے اور معاف بھی فرما دیجئے اور آپ راضی اور خوش ہو جائیے آپ راضی ہو گئے تو ہمارا بیڑا پار ہو گیا آپ ناراض مت ہونا غصہ مت کرنا معاف کر دینا رحم کر دینا کرم کر دینا پوری امت کو معاف کر دیجئے پوری امت پر رحم فرما دیجئے پوری امت میں ہدایت کو عام فرما دیجئے پوری امت کی حفاظت فرما دیجئے پوری امت کو دشمنوں کی ندغہ سے نجات عطا فرمائیے دشمنوں کی اسکیموں کے حوالے نہ فرمائیے دشمنوں کی سازشوں اور اسکیموں کو ناکام فرمائیے اور یا اللہ امت کے لیے خیر اور برکت صلاح اور فلاح اور ہدایت کے فیصلے فرمائیے ہماری ٹوٹی پھوٹی دعائیں سن لیجئے جو حضرات دعا میں شامل ہیں ان میں سے ہر ایک کے دل میں جو بھی انفرادی حاجت اور ضرورت ہے اس کو اپنے خزانے غیب سے پورا فرمائیے ربنا تقبل منا انك انت السميع العليم وتب علينا انك انت التواب الرحيم وصلى اللهم وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه اجمعين برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين